Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you all like it, please like and subscribe, and hope you all enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day. Hey y'all, hope you all are having a great day today. Just checking in here at the town of Kicco, right here in the Central Florida area, right by the River Ranch area. Today we decided to do something a little bit different today. You know, generally we do although we generally do a wide range of topics and things, but today we're going to do something a little bit different. So that's what's going to be so cool about this. Now, you're probably wondering why we are standing in the middle of the woods and swamps. Would it actually surprise you that this is the general spot where there was a cattle ranch called the Kissimmee Island Cattle Company, or otherwise known as Kicco. It was actually at its official capacity, quote unquote, from 1915 to the late 1920s. And while it is a ghost town now, if you even want to call it that, because the structures themselves aren't much to speak of, if, you know, not even really much around at this point, at least from all of our exploring that we've done in this general spot. We were given a GPS coordinates of where it may have been, but nonetheless it had a lasting impact on the surrounding area. And one thing that I personally would like to point out is that even after all this time, the area still gives off that old Florida feel, or just that old time feeling, if you get what I mean. You know, it's kind of one of those things, you know. Well, hopefully you understand. Well, anyways, let's go see what we can find out. So a little basic info before we actually get too crazy is that this town was actually a big part of the development of the Central Florida area. More specifically, the towns such as Kissimmee and Sebring. And these towns depended on beef production as well as river trade at its highest point. The Kissimmee Island Cattle Company settlement had on site at its highest point a bunkhouse, mess hall, company store, an ice house, and a power plant, if I remember correctly. Yeah, a power plant, and of course homes, schoolhouse, company store, a few saloons, and, you know, of course, what is it without a saloon or two, you know. And of course, even had a steamboat landing, for how it was described to me as well. But these days, not much of these things are actually still around, unfortunately, as far as the structures and all that stuff. But they do nowadays. But they do have a campground, of course, and a bunch of hiking trails, boating, hunting, and fishing. As you can see, there's a river right here, and all that stuff, and some little campsites around the general area, which is really nice. So you can definitely enjoy these nowadays. And let me add that the Florida Trail, the actual Florida Trail, is in the area. And this is actually one of the stops that we made coming up the Florida Trail here at the Kissimmee Island Cattle Company site, the town of Kicco, as we're coming up the trail. More about the Florida Trail in another video, I promise. And nothing that I say would actually mean much if I didn't tell a little bit about the history of the cattle business and its relation to Florida. And this may seem really hard to believe, but Florida was actually the original birthplace of the American cowboy. And this was like long before the cowboy served as symbols of the American West. You know, of course, Seminole Indians, Spanish colonists, and American settlers herded cattle in Florida too. This area is actually located on some of the same land that these first Florida cowboys roamed a long time ago. Now let's talk about the nitty-gritty stuff. So the general area that became known as River Ranch, which is a short distance north of where we're at here, once served as a meeting and resting point along the trail for the cowboys during their cattle excursions through the state. They would actually come through this area and meet each other here at different times of the year, and of course put some of their small herds together of the wild wild cattle. And of course they would, that they had found throughout the year. So then they would put them all in one large herd. By putting them all together, that they could, so they could actually help each other and get all the cattle ready to go to sale. Now, if I'm interpreting this correctly, kind of off top, well, on topic, but off the script. If you see this right here, this is a piece of concrete right here, or some hard landing stuff here. As you can tell, this was where one of the structures was, right here in this general spot, right along the river here. Well, according to some of the research that I've actually done, interestingly enough, some of the records show that some of the early day cattle drives have had about 1,000, maybe up to even 2,000 heads of cattle on one cattle drive. Now, since Florida, for those that may not know, was an open pasture, like an open ranged area, and didn't have any fenced in pastures or cattle pens or any of that stuff. So cattle rustling was, of course, pretty big. And the state, of course, became a pretty big supplier of cattle for the Confederacy during the Civil War between 1861 and 1865, for those that don't know. And I think about 1861, the state of Florida ended up dividing, Hillsborough County into eastern and western parts. And the eastern side of the county was actually called Polk County, or called Polk. And for those that don't know, James K. Polk, which was what the county was named after, was actually the 11th president of the United States. And I've previously done some videos on James K. Polk, and hope to do even more in the future. Now, going back to the River Ranch thing, it is located on the far side of the east, like the east side of Polk County. Now, as I mentioned before, the town of Kicco, Kisso, which is actually spelled K-I-C-C-O, it's actually pronounced, as you're saying Kisso. So the spelling says K-I-C-C-O, but technically speaking, it really is pronounced the Kissimmee, Island Cattle Company. So it's, technically spelled, it should be spelled K-I-S-S-O, but of course, as they say, that's how things go. But anyways, the Kissimmee Island Cattle Company was actually located along the Kissimmee River, which is just a few miles south of River Ranch. The town grew from, the need of the local traffic coming through the area, and that was, at the time, was either by horseback or by a steam-powered paddle boat along the river. The boat would actually receive wood to burn in their boilers to make steam, and the cowboys would get their supplies that were brought in by the boats, taking goods from Lake Okeechobee up the Kissimmee River all the way to St. Augustine by connecting to the St. Johns River that flows north up the state of Florida. Now, some of you may or may not have been able to tell at this point, Kisso actually served as a thriving company town from the from 1915 to the late 1920s. Of course, the town faded away in the early 1930s as roads were built and transportation of goods moved from the river waterways to trains and roadways. The original town site now serves as a conservation recreation area that is actually run jointly by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission and the South Florida Water Management District. Now today, visitors to the Westgate River Ranch area can take an old-fashioned hayride excursion into the 7,000-acre Kisso Wildlife Management Area. The abundant wildlife, of course, lots of wildlife around here, and all that sorts. Deer, pigs, gator. You have all kinds of cool things out here, which is what makes this place so nice. As you can see, some of the moss and all that stuff, and the Spanish moss as well. But of course, you also have deer out here as well, and bald eagles and turkeys and everything else. But anyways, anyways, this is pretty much the deal here. We found some more pieces of concrete. We're still in the process of hoping to being able to find some more official stuff, but we were able to find some concrete over there, as mentioned before. Well, after searching around, we weren't able to find too much in regards to the actual structures. This will be, there may or may not be a part 2, depending on what more information I can find out. But we do have some concrete right here. What appears to be some sort of foundation and sorts in this general spot. So this could very well be a structure that had been here at one time. Now, even according to some of the rangers in this general spot, they said this is the right area, but as of 1984 and after, there's not too much record of where the actual structures themselves were. But anyways, this is the general spot of where the Kissimmee Island Cattle Company has been, or was. Well, I sure hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and share the video with all your friends. Good day. Nice place to be in old Florida. So it appears that there's no official trail to get out here. So you might have to meander through here a little bit to get to the actual town itself. At least where the structures were. This is where it was described to me as to where it is.